My name is Marcus, and I never imagined that an ordinary Sunday cleaning our closet would unravel everything I believed about my marriage. My wife, Sophia, and I had been together for 9 years, married for 6 of them, and I always thought we communicated well. We shared responsibilities, discussed our problems openly, and never let anything fester in silence. That belief made what I found that afternoon even harder to accept. While reorganizing her winter clothes to make room for new storage boxes, my hand brushed against a folder tucked deep behind her old coats, hidden as if it was never meant to be seen. I almost ignored it, assuming it was old tax documents or forgotten paperwork from years ago. But something about how carefully it was concealed made me curious enough to pull it out. My chest tightened the moment I opened the folder and saw the words "Petition for Divorce" printed clearly across the top page. My hands went cold, and for a moment I simply stared, unable to process what I was looking at. This was not an old document from before we met. The date stamped on it was from just 2 months earlier, recent enough to feel like a blade to my chest. I sat down on the closet floor, papers trembling slightly in my hands, and read through every page carefully. It was fully drafted, listing our shared assets, custody arrangements for our daughter, and even a proposed timeline for finalizing everything. Sophia had clearly consulted a lawyer, filled out details about our finances, and prepared this with more thought than a passing moment of frustration would require. Yet she had never once mentioned wanting to leave, never raised her voice in anger, never gave me any warning that our marriage was quietly falling apart behind her calm, familiar smile every single day. My mind raced through recent months, searching for signs I might have missed. Had she been distant? Had our conversations grown shorter, more routine? I could recall small moments now that seemed different in hindsight, longer hours at work, quieter evenings, less initiation of affection between us. At the time, I had chalked it up to stress or exhaustion from parenting. Now, sitting there with legal paperwork in my hands, I wonder if those quiet moments had actually been her slowly preparing to walk away from everything we built together, without giving me a chance to understand why. When Sophia came home that evening, I did not immediately confront her with anger. I placed a folder on our kitchen table and simply asked her to sit down with me. Her face changed instantly when she saw the papers, a mixture of shock and something that looked almost like relief, as if a secret she had been carrying alone was finally being brought into the light. I asked her calmly why she never told me she wanted a divorce, why she let me continue believing everything was fine, while she quietly built an exit plan behind closed doors. She was quiet for a long moment before speaking, and when she finally did, her explanation was not what I expected at all. She told me the papers were not about wanting to leave me, but about protecting herself and our daughter from her own mother, who had been threatening legal action to gain custody rights during a mental health crisis months earlier. Sophia had consulted a lawyer out of fear, preparing documents as a defensive measure in case her mother followed through, never intending for them to ever apply to our actual marriage or our relationship together. I sat there stunned, trying to reconcile the fear in her eyes with the paperwork that had frightened me so deeply. She explained that her mother, struggling with untreated bipolar disorder, had accused her of being an unfit parent during a manic episode, threatening to file for guardianship of our daughter using old family court connections. Sophia had panicked, consulted a family lawyer privately, and mistakenly used a divorce template because it was the fastest way to draft protective language regarding custody, never realizing how devastating it would look if I ever found it hidden away. The reason shocked me more than the papers themselves because it revealed a threat I never knew existed, one Sophia had carried entirely alone out of fear of worrying me during an already stressful time. She admitted she should have told me immediately that hiding it had only made things worse and created exactly the kind of misunderstanding she had been trying to avoid. I felt a strange mixture of relief and hurt. Relief that our marriage was not secretly ending, but hurt that she had chosen to protect me from worry rather than trust me with something this serious. We spent hours at night talking honestly for the first time in months, working through everything she had been carrying silently. I learned how frightened she truly was of losing our daughter, how her mother's episode had triggered childhood trauma from her own difficult upbringing, and how isolated she felt trying to manage it without burdening our marriage. I realized that her silence had not come from a lack of love, but from a misguided attempt to shield me, even if it meant carrying an unbearable weight completely alone during the hardest months of her life. In the weeks that followed, we contacted a family lawyer together, this time as a united team rather than Sophia facing in isolation. We built proper legal protections around our daughter's custody, ensuring her mother's threats could never actually take hold, no matter how severe future episode became. Sophia also began attending therapy alongside her mother's treatment process, working through years of unresolved fear that had shaped her instinct to hide problems rather than share them. Slowly, I watched her learn to trust me with difficult truths instead of protecting me from them out of misplaced fear. Our marriage did not break that day in the closet, but it changed in an important way. I understood now that fear can make people hide things that look far worse than the truth actually is, and that assumptions built on partial information can spiral into devastating conclusions. Sophia and I made a promise to each other after that night that no matter how frightening a situation became, we would face it together rather than let silence create distance between us. That folder, once a symbol of fear, eventually became proof of how much stronger honesty made us. Looking back now, over a year later, I am grateful. I asked calmly instead of reacting in anger the moment I found those papers. Had I confronted her with rage, assuming the worst without listening, I might have destroyed something worth saving over a misunderstanding born from fear rather than betrayal. Sophia's mother has since begun proper treatment, and the legal threats have quieted considerably, though we remain cautious. Our daughter is safe, our marriage is stronger, and I learned that sometimes the scariest discoveries hide reasons far more human and far more forgivable than we initially assume in our worst moments.